Assalamu alaikum and welcome to our Ark of Salvation series with Sayed Mustafa Qazwini in the month of Muharram, where we're discussing some social issues that are relevant to today for us to reflect upon. And today we're going to be looking at how parents can deal with rebellion in the younger generation. This, of course, is a phenomenon that has developed in secular societies, again, particularly in Western countries, and it has again spread into Muslim cultures as well, resulting again in social disintegration and disrespect among generations. So how can we work on preventing this from happening? Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
This is perhaps again something worth reflecting on in the light of the tragedy of Karbala, when we can see how the youth that took part in that sacrifice, how close they were, how close Imam Hussein's sons were to him, how the whole family acted as a unit together, the love and respect that was between the generations. And today we see again the young Muslim people naturally affected by the societies that they're growing up in, and starting to think differently and disconnecting from their parents. And this is something very difficult to manage. What would your advice be for parents who are experiencing, say, these communication difficulties and this gap in the generations?
Actually, I would say almost every single family, Muslim family living in the West, they suffer from this, the rebellion of their young generation. And they ask this question: how can we get them back into the family, into our culture? As you mentioned rightly, in the culture of Imam Hussein on the day of Ashura, we see that kids as young as 12 and 13, they were willing to come and sacrifice.
Yeah.
How come, those young ones, and most of them were young ones, what did Imam Hussein and his family do to pull them and attract them towards himself and his cause and Islam, ultimately the cause of Islam?
Yeah.
Did they brainwash them? Did they use magic? No. It wasn't about brainwashing. It wasn't about any sort of magic. It was about the upbringing.
Yeah.
The upbringing from the beginning was good and safe. So here, as parents living in the West, we have to acknowledge that there is a problem in the treatment and the dealing of the parents with their kids. There is something wrong there. And this wrong, or this problem, stem from the fact that they don't understand each other. Parents who are raising their children here, they don't understand their psychology.
Yeah.
They don't understand the challenges that their kids face. They don't understand the peer pressure that their children face in this society. So the key, solution to dealing safely and in a healthy way and in a nice way with our children is to understand their psychology, to understand the challenges that surrounds them. And therefore there are three important points that I think every family, every father, every mother must understand about the culture of the youth in the West. Point number one, the generation gap. Those who came from the Middle East and the Indian subcontinent, 30, 40, 50 years ago, they were the first generation.
Yeah.
They were born in their own cultures, raised there, and then they moved to the West. But their children, they were born and raised here. They did not go to a school in Pakistan or Iran or Lebanon or Iraq or Bangladesh. They went to the nursery when they were 3, 4 years old. I think they call it nursery here.
Yeah.
And kindergarten and whatever, preschool, and then the school here in this culture. So this is their culture. This is their home. And The parents, they want to impose their own culture, their own way of thinking on their children, and that does not work. And this leads into this conflict. Neither the parents are going to understand their children's thinking, nor the children are going to willing to submit and subordinate themselves to their parents' thinking and culture and desires. And this is why we find maybe two group of people living in the same house, one being the parents, the father and the mother, but they live in their own world.
Yeah.
And the other group, the children, living under the same roof, but their own thinking, their own lifestyle, completely different, completely different. We have to acknowledge this. There is a generation gap. And Imam Ali alayhi salam, he referred to this generation gap 1400 years ago. لا تقصروا أولادكم على زمانكم فإنهم خلقوا على آدابكم فإنهم خلقوا لزمان غير زمانكم. Do not coerce your children to follow your same lifestyle as yours, because they were born and delivered for another generation different than yours, different from yours. So the aqidah stays the same. You know, the ideology stays the same. The ideology of Islam, they have to pray, they have to fast, but there are certain styles. Let's say the dress. Why should a son here, I know some parents are very strict on this, that son, you have to wear what I was wearing when I was your age. This is a different age, this is a different culture. Why should, for instance, a son wears qamis and shalwar, for instance, in Pakistani culture? He lives in America, it's different, it's different. As long as he's behaving well and doing well, let him wear what is suitable for this time, okay? And, but when it comes to hijab also, some parents, they insist that you have to wear the same way my mother and my sisters used to wear back in this country and that country 3 decades ago or 4. It's different. As long as in this culture she's wearing the hijab, which is acceptable by Allah, doesn't matter whether this is a Pakistani style or Saudi style or French style, you know, or Iraqi style. Doesn't matter. She has to wear what is comfortable and what is suitable for this time and age. So we have, or sometimes they say, well, your age, I did not drive, I didn't even own a car. But this age is different. He needs to commute to his school. So sometimes he needs to drive. There is no other choice. Generation gap, to understand it, is very, very important. Because then we don't reach a point of a breakdown. We know that this son, this daughter was born and raised here, they go to school here, they have different thinking. It's okay. It's okay then, you know. Then we come...
I was just going to say that research has shown that, you know, communities that emigrate from one country to another remain with the thinking that they had at the time that they emigrated, whereas the thinking in their own country back home actually changes.
Also has changed, of course.
So the parents in the West are keeping the thinking they had 30, 40 years ago, but their own country has moved on.
Absolutely, yeah. Some parents, they take their own time as a model for all the times, and that does not work. Even your own village back home has changed. If you go back today, you will say people are different, different thinking, different lifestyle. The second point that we must understand when dealing with our kids and raising them is that they have this natural tendency in them to be independent, to be able to say, listen, I'm not following my parents. I have my own way, my own style, which sometimes it is good, it is helpful, you know, to be independent from your family. So you can stand on your feet, you can build yourself, you can depend on yourself, you don't depend solely on your father, on your father's money, on your mother's, you know, help. But then on the other hand, total cessation and total so-called independence is not good too. Because they don't want to be told what to say, what to do. They want to be completely free on everything they do, which is dangerous because sometimes they don't do the right thing.
Yeah.
They don't say the right thing. They don't go to the right places. They don't befriend the right people. So the role of the parents also is not just providers and breadwinners, also supervisors. They have to advise, they have to supervise, they have to guide their kids. So the kids also have to listen to their parents' advice. Yes, they love to be independent, is very good. But at certain points, they have to consult with their parents. They have to agree with their parents on certain issues. This is the second point. The third point is that, unfortunately, some of the young ones in this culture, and this is also very natural, you see it in 99% of the young generation living in the West, they want to fit in with the rest of the society, with the bigger culture. They don't want to look strange, eccentric, or odd, or sometimes, so they want to assimilate and rather emulate what others do. So for instance, the idea of boyfriend and girlfriend for them is very natural. Why not? What's wrong with that? Everybody is doing that.
Yeah.
In my school, all of them, they have this hairstyle. Why not me? In my school, all of them, they have this, piercing or, in their nose or whatever, on their lips. So what's wrong with that? It's okay. We have to tell them, yes, it's okay in this, frame, in this environment, but it's not okay in Islam, and these are the reasons.
Yeah.
We have to sit and talk to them. And I think the best way of raising children is not when we give them orders or commands, but when we befriend them, when we become really close friends to them. So we have the freedom of telling them everything, and also they can discuss and negotiate everything with us without the fear of, being persecuted or marginalized or, condemned to this or to that. They have the freedom. They can reach out to us very freely. Through friendship, we can, chart our way through this, unfortunately, very difficult terrain.
Yeah.
This age, the teen ages, the teens age, and this period is very, very difficult, is very tumultuous. It's not easy. They need to, they need to really struggle a lot. And I've seen some parents are extremely frustrated and they lost their hope.
Yeah.
They've given up on these cases. They come to me, they say, Sayed, my daughter is completely lost. I lost my hope. Or my son, I tell them, no, don't. They are a human being. They go through difficult time. There is a lot of peer pressure on them. You have to be patient. Don't disconnect with them.
Yeah.
Some parents, unfortunately, commit this mistake.
Yeah.
They think that since they are not following my culture, my religion, my customs, then I have to disconnect completely and tell them, you are not my son, disavow them, you are not my son, you are not my daughter anymore. This is the biggest mistake. You need to struggle with that. This is a test by God. Sometimes God tests people with their health, sometimes with their business, and sometimes with their marriages and with their children. So you have to put up with that, and you have to continue your struggle, but in different ways. Sometimes they don't listen to you, but they might listen to others. So you have to go to the others and seek the help. Again, one of the things that I find it very necessary in dealing with our children is the one-on-one relationship. Sometimes it's good that the young ones, they go to seminars, to youth retreats, youth camps, workshops, lectures, social activities, very good, But then we have to be more specific with them when we deal with them. One-on-one, we have to sit, allocate some time to talk to our children. Prime time, not when we are tired. Not when we come back from work, we are exhausted, we need to eat something and then go to bed. That's the wrong time. We need to allocate some important time, the prime time where we have good energy, they have good energy, and we have to speak with them. We have to take them sometimes to trips back to the Middle East, to the Indian subcontinent, to North Africa, to the Umrah, if possible, to the Hajj, if they have their own money, or sometimes some parents, they can afford paying for their children's trips to Hajj and Umrah. Sometimes to ziyarah. We take them to visit the holy shrines, the holy places, because they're going to be touched with that. Believe me, I've seen some kids who lived in North America and Europe, and they were out of touch completely with their culture. And they become completely, you know, Americanized, okay, or westernized. And till the age of 25, 28, and then when they went, when there was an opportunity to go back to visit their, you know, their ancestors' land, they were shocked. And then they came back and they said, we blame our parents. Why didn't you take me when I was 5, when I was 6, when I was 7? You should have taken me to familiarize me with my culture, with my tradition, with my family, my extended family, with my religion. Why did you leave it, you know? So some of them, they want to go, they want to learn. So we have to help them by merely going there and observing what is happening. And in particular, I learned something from Iraq, because my land and my country, original country is Iraq and the city of Karbala. When I go there, I see lots of orphans and lots of poor people. And sometimes we try to help them through the foundation that we have. This time I decided to take my kids, to take them with me, so they help the orphans. And they see firsthand the suffering and the deprivation of the children there, the people there. They will be touched by that. We have to tell them, listen,
they're not just lost in their own world.
This is the other side of the story. I know in the West you have everything available for you. You have all these amenities and the comfort and the transportation and food and clothing and, you know, housing. But there are others, you know, in other cultures, in other countries, that they can't afford even a moderate house, or no food, no drink. So I think these trips are very necessary in shaping the mentalities and the understanding and the perspectives of our young ones.
Yes, thank you. On that point, I remember teaching or giving a lecture to a class of young Muslim students in London, and it turned out that none of them had been on Hajj. Now, I'm sure perhaps some parents couldn't have afforded it, but out of all of them, I'm sure some parents could have afforded to have taken them on Hajj. And I was also...
As they take them sometimes to Euro Disney and Disney World and Disneyland, so at least they can afford sending them, because Hajj, I went to Hajj when I was 5 years old. And I remember vividly that trip, believe me. I remember the tawaf, I remember the sa'i. It was not as much crowded as it is now. And I remember all the company who were with us. And that trip made me to be a Hajj addict now. That trip at 5 years old. And my father not only took me, he took upon himself that every time he goes to Hajj, every year he used to go to Hajj, he will take one of his children as an educational, not just religious purpose, but an education. And he used to tell us, this is the house of the Prophet. This is the house where the Prophet came first to Medina. He lived in this house, the house of Abu Ayyub al-Ansari. This is Mahallat Bani Hashim. It was an educational trip for us. We learned a lot from that trip. And you carry it with you for the rest of your life.
I think, you know, reconnecting the young people with their ancestry, the culture of that, the literature, the poetry, can give them a greater sense of self-respect.
And the food, don't forget
and
the
food,
food.
of
They
course.
like the food too.
So that they, you know, because I think that they are disconnected here. If they, you know, if you're disconnected from the beautiful or the good things or the beneficial things of Islamic culture, then of course you're going to just plug into a lot of the trash. I mean, unfortunately, the mainstream culture now is majority trash, we could say. So most people are going to be plugged into that rather than... So it is very important, as you say. I mean, we've just got 5 minutes talking about this. We've talked about the generation gap. There's also, of course, this issue of communication, because now we live in a world of texting and in fact, I was... I mean, my mother brought me up that if I wanted to say something to her, I had to go to the room to speak to her. I couldn't shout from another room. I had to go to speak to her. And now I was sitting with a young person teaching them, and I noticed that she would text her mother. So they'd be texting each other even though they're in the same house.
Yes, even if they are in the same room sometimes, which is very dangerous.
Yeah.
And this is replacing our social life. We are not enjoying these social gatherings.
Yeah.
Because when the children, or sometimes the parents too, they find it easy to WhatsApp and text and email and, you know, then why should, you know, he takes the step by going and visiting his parents?
Yeah.
Or sitting with them, you know, over dinner or lunch. This is very dangerous. This is slowly creating this separation and this disconnect between the family members. While sitting on the... You know what I did in my house? I said, listen, when we sit and eat, no smartphones, no iPads, no telephones, nothing, no emails, no computers. We just sit and we talk together to each other and we eat. And then when we finish, then you have, you know, your time, go and enjoy your texts, you know, or your emails. We need this time. This is the quality time. When we sit and we discuss our views regarding any issue, international, national, local, family, you know, economy, politics, finance, or whatever it is. We need to spend this time. This will bring harmony and connection among the members of the family. When this one is missing, you know, then the divide is getting bigger, and there is no affection for each other, no compassion for each other, no feelings for each other. And this is very dangerous. We have to really put this under control. This is a new disease which is, you know, plaguing our societies. And we have imams, leaders, religious leaders, social leaders, educators, parents. They really should pay attention to this disease, and they should curtail it, and try to create this quality time where the family members, the young ones, the youth, the parents, they sit together and they face to face, they discuss their affairs.
Thank you very much for, again, a good discussion, and inshallah, of course, month of Muharram is a good time for families to promote these connections with each other that should happen on both sides. Young people also, although young people may feel quite impatient sometimes with their parents, it's very important to value that connection with the parents as well. Try to see your parents as people, not just as your parents, and understand, you know, they have feelings and their perspective as well. So thank you very much for that useful discussion, and thank you for watching. I hope that that program was useful for you, and inshallah we will see you in the next program. Assalamu alaikum.